Rows of houses are bearing down on me.
I can feel their blue hands. Blue hands, is that what it says?
Blue hands touching me.
Touching me.
All these things in all positions. All these things will one day take control. And fade out.
Again. Machine will not communicate.
This machine will be a world child form
for a circle
before we all go under.
Go under.
I do remember that. And
fade out
again. And fade out
again. And you got to hit the top B. Again.
Hi kids.
Hey kids.
Welcome to a new video of the Wenton Court King thing.
Yeah, that thing.
And this week we're doing OK Computer.
Okay.
Your face.
Okay. Yeah. So they've gone from with Pablo Honey being called Nirvana Light to being called not Nirvana Light. But I tell you what, they sound like ELO now. I'll give you a little moment there, just let that sink in. Everyone's thinking, you're mad, surely. Sam's probably thinking I'm mad as well, but until you actually put it on and you can't undo it. Once you've thought that, you cannot unthink it.
Oh no. Have you just ruined Radiohead for me, Kev?
It sounds like, they sound like ELO. Only this album, I think, but melodically there's something happening there. And not just obviously the vocal section in Paranoid Android is ELO-y, but, you know, this is what you'll get. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na. That's really ELO. And there's a lot of them all over the album. Interesting. It's obviously apocalyptic ELO, but that's a good thing. That's definitely a good thing. I'm all for that. So they've changed. They've changed big time. Self-produced. The record company suits were actually horrified. They put their predictions for the sales down, and they hated it. And they thought it was commercial suicide, etc., etc. It's not that different, though, is it?
No.
Isn't that interesting?
No,
but
and yes.
Yeah, no, and yes. Yeah, I mean, it is different. They're moving, but it is just the next stage, isn't it? It's not like one album sounded like Nirvana and the next album sounded like Nurse with Wound. It still sounds like Radiohead, doesn't it? You know, the bend sounds like Radiohead, this sounds like Radiohead. So the difference, in a sense, is subtle, but massively important. This is really good album. I think this is far better than the Bends now in 2015, which I didn't. I remember thinking the Bends was better. I said this last week, but it was just Paranoid Android. But actually, this is a really good album, and it's weird that I think, oh yeah, OK Computer. And I think, yeah, it's a really definitive, brilliant album. But I kind of prefer Steven Wilson, which is kind of a similar thing. I think actually Steven Wilson's better. But then I put this on and I think, no, it's not. But then I put it off again. I think, yes, it is. Yes, Steven Wilson's better. So only when I'm listening to it, this is actually better than Steven Wilson. But yeah, I think this is sort of definitive of the era, best album of that particular year, etc., etc. What's different?
The tone of the songs are a bit different. They've maybe they've looked at Street Spirit and extracted something from that and thought that kind of works, and just sprinkled it liberally all over the album. Maybe because they're self-produced, they're a little bit more self-critical, and every song has a pretty high standard.
Yeah, very high standard. There's only one song I don't like, which is, you know, you think about it, that's a really good thing.
I think there's a sort of progression in the lyrical side of things. There's nothing on that sounds too out there. It sounds fairly standard.
They're just songs.
Yeah.
And it's still also, the teen angst element was still there.
Whereas the expression comes primarily from the tone of his voice. He's really worked that well now, and he's really using it, because let's face it, some of the lyrics don't make a lot of sense. And it's got a little bit worse over the years.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But at this point, I mean, I certainly wouldn't criticise the lyrics. They're abstract and they're. I don't care about that. It's the sound of the sounds of the words and his voice. Mm-hmm. I mean, we can't really big that up enough. I don't think his voice at this point. It's amazing. It's one of the biggest voices ever. It's the whole package. So the lyrics and the sound of the album and the structure of it and the way the songs are structured. He's done it in a completely different way. In that, you know, this is still the reason the record company were happy with it. This is still music for teenagers. The suits are thinking, yeah, the kids are like that. This is not music for teenagers. This is music. This is universal music. Like Dark Side of the Moon has that universal thing about it, and it's not as obvious as Dark Side of the Moon. It's much more subtle than that. In that Dark Side of the Moon is so obvious, and Roger Waters has said himself, you know, that he got away with it because, you know, it's about life and death and money and time, and it's kind of obvious. This is less obvious. This is much more of its time, in that it really captures what people are feeling around this time, and I think after this time as well. All the cynicism about the end of the world. It's the apocalypse. Everything's corrupt and politicians and etc. But not in a cheesy rock band way, but in an accepting way. In a way that this is what's happening. I'm afraid, and it's depressing. 1 = 2. We hope you choke. I remember when I first saw the CD, that was the thing I picked up on. I just thought that was fantastic. All mathematicians go. It's got that melancholy and it's about isolation, and so in that sense it is very Floydian. And they started getting compared to Pink Floyd, which is kind of silly, but I do see a thing there, certainly in the themes.
Yeah, they're definitely on similar tracks there.
I mean, it's almost Pink Floyd, but more Roger Waters, or more what people perceive Roger Waters' part of it to be. Probably isn't more Roger Waters actually. Roger Waters wouldn't actually be anything like that bleak musically. He'd only be that bleak lyrically. But yeah, and for that reason, it's sublime. I think it's a sublime album. What kind of thing were they influenced by with Pablo Honey? I don't think they were really influenced by Nirvana.
No, I find pinning down Radiohead's influences quite difficult, especially modern Radiohead, because it's
abstract.
It's a very unique sound, very identifiable, but very unique.
I don't know. Well, I suppose you can certainly say Pablo Honey. People said it sounded like Nirvana. I don't know whether it really sounded like Nirvana, but it sounded like British indie rock, teenager music. But here, I think they've even said, they're influenced by Bitches Brew, and you think about it and you think, oh yeah, and that terrifying, dense sound of 15 musicians all going on Bitches Brew. That's actually the direction they went in. Also, Can. They sound a lot like Can, and a lot of that is down to the drumming as well as the vocals changing. The drummer has literally progressed. In the Pablo Honey, he sounds like an indie rock drummer. Here he's experimenting with weird rhythms and not playing very tightly, playing really, really swinging loosely. The only part of it I don't like is the guitar, and it's not the notes, it's the performance of the guitar. It's his technique, or lack of. He has a very, very simple approach to the guitar. It's hit the strings. He's playing it in a way where he's saying you're not supposed to do anything else but hit the strings. You hit the notes, bang, done. I'm a guitarist.
Yeah, my impression of that is he's not necessarily a guitarist. He's more of a sort of a musician, and what he's interested in is getting to the nub of the sound he wants.
Well, yeah, when he does that, it's brilliant. When he doesn't do that, it's less good, I think. I suppose that's what it is.
Yeah, you're not going to listen to Radiohead for a guitar solo. Not
in that sense, no. But you're going to listen to Radiohead for some cool guitar sounds. But it isn't just guitar sounds. It's not like, well, we can only sound like guitar because that's the only thing that's cool. There's Mellotron on there, there's the strings on there, there's some really cool organ, actually. Jazz organ-y stuff. This is in terms of their journey. This is their close to the edge. This is where they're in a sense their best point, where they're on the journey, they're on the ascent. They haven't reached the top yet. Like Close to the Edge, like Led Zeppelin 3, or like Selling England, or like Trilogy, or any of those bands. They all do that same thing. As we'll talk about next week, I'm sure, is that once they get to the top, it's possible the top isn't there and they fall off a cliff. But sometimes the top is there, but they only do it once. And once they're at the top, they come back down again. First song.
Airbag.
What a great riff. I think when you first put it on, you think, this is a bit lightweight for the start of the album. And I heard Paranoid Android first. The first time I was late to the party with Radiohead. I mean, I'd heard the bands, and I thought, yes, they're good, but they're boring. It was only when they played Paranoid Android on Jules Holland, it was, as did the rest of the country, I suppose, who hadn't already picked up on them. And then when I heard the album, I was disappointed with that first song, but actually it's really good. And again, it sounds like ELO. Now, whilst that sounds weird, just imagine that riff played by a cello or an electric violin, and it sounds like ELO. And straight away, though, we hear something very different to what was going on before, and it's the drumming. The drumming is different. The guitar is still, like I said, but he's just experimenting. Maybe it's only the guitarist is the only one who doesn't realise that they can do anything. They can do anything they like, and they are.
Yeah, it's a good track.
Track 2.
Paranoid Android.
Paranoid Android. Yeah, it's very good. It's very good. 14 minutes originally.
Was it?
Yeah, I'd love to hear that. I have to say they made the right decision. It's only 6.5 minutes, but that means that they have distilled it down to absolute perfection. It is perfect song. It is for me, it's their best song. I don't think it's everybody's favourite Radiohead song, but for me, that's fantastic, and it's not something they ever did again.
I get the sense they're very good at that, though, distilling down and taking out the superfluous notes, which some bands aren't very good at.
I mean, Pink Floyd Pink Floyd are viewed as being the antithesis of that. I mean, there are actually other bands that do it much more, proper space rock, where they change note every 10 minutes. And then again, the 14-minute Paranoid Android is probably great. Now you know the original song, to hear the journey, it'd be great. The vocals are very good. Everything about it is very good. What killer riff, that cool intro, but the choral bit is just awesome, and obviously sounds like ELO.
And quite often the album is called Paranoid Android.
Yeah, people think it's called that. It has the Achilles' last stand effect in that it overwhelms the rest of the album. You have to get over that to realise the rest of the album is brilliant as well.
Yeah, actually, when you do once you've listened to Paranoid Android about 50 times,
then you listen to the rest of the album.
Picking up the rest of the album, there's some really good stuff. Track 3?
Track 3. Subterranean, Homesick, Alien. In a sense, it's a classic bit of Radiohead. It's just a nice song. I do think there's an element of like following on from Paranoid Android. It's the aftermath. The sun has come out now, and we can just play a nice song now. And the thing about this album is the track list is absolutely perfect. Apparently, they spent like 2 weeks thinking about it, putting the track list in order. And that's the thing about it is it's not any individual piece of this album. It is the whole album. It's not a concept album, but it is a perfect album. I mean, you know, on Pulse they play "Learning to Fly." Now, "Learning to Fly" is an insipid 80s melodic pop song with fantastic guitar playing. But on Pulse, it works because you've got "Shine On You Crazy Diamond," all that melancholy, and then the sun comes out and you just have a nice pretty song with some nice guitar playing. And on Pulse, I think it works fantastically, particularly on the video, on the DVD. I don't know why. And that's like that. And it isn't a particularly good song, but in the context of the album, it's brilliant.
You've just reminded me of something, Kev. There you go. Thank you for lending me that. Very good song.
They're all very good songs. Number 4.
Exit music for a film.
Classic Radiohead, typical Radiohead, in that it is amusingly depressing and or sublimely moving. Yeah. I mean, it's. I know there's an episode of Father Ted where the guy who's suffering from depression, he cheers up and he's all happy, gets on the bus, and they play Radiohead on the radio, and he starts crying again. I can't remember which song it is. It could well be this song. It's one of those in the style of Street Spirit Radio.
I think it's a bit more depressing than that.
It is.
I think it's sublime. And
it's also funny. Yeah. I mean, Radiohead are funny because it's so depressing.
Was it this one that was written for the Romeo and Juliet film, or was it the motion picture soundtrack?
I thought it was motion picture soundtrack.
It might be, yeah.
I don't know. Not 100% sure about that.
Yeah.
Google it. See how worthless facts are now in the internet age.
Yeah. That's what Google's for. It is a masterpiece of melancholy. Best way to sum it up, really.
Yeah, right. Track 5, Let's Down. For me, this is filler. It only works at all because of where it is on the album. It's a dreary pop song. It, to me, sounds like the stuff they influenced. Maybe they did influence that stuff, but the dreary Coldplay, Travis, The Verve, boring old fart music. It really is boring old fart music. Maybe that means lots of people like it, because it seems to be the most influential song on the album. But yeah, for me, it is.
It's quite forgettable, actually. When you look at the track listing, it is the one that you think, hang on, what's that? But ordinarily, maybe it's just got a bit lost in the tracks that are there. It'd be interesting to listen to it on its own, actually.
Yeah. I mean, it is coming after one of the most depressing songs ever written.
Yeah, it's a little buffer piece between that and the next track.
Yeah. Next up.
Karma Police.
Karma Police. Oh yes. It sounds like ELO. It does. Look, I'm sorry, it does. And so, you cannot unthink it. Once you think it, you can't unthink it. It does. It's incredibly melancholy, depressing ELO. But it is ELO. That's what it sounds like to me. The whole arrangement of it, the vocals as well. There's something Jeff Lynne there. I mean, I'm not suggesting Jeff Lynne's as good a singer as Tom York, but I think it sounds like ELO. And that's a very, very, very good song.
Track 7, fitter, happier, more brutal.
Synthesised voice in the style of what I associate with sort of Atari ST and Amiga sounds. People would probably think Stephen Hawking. Some people might think it's actually Stephen Hawking, which it isn't.
There's an obvious sci-fi influence to this album with like Paranoid Android and Subterranean, Homesick, Alien, which is surprising for an album that's had such success, really. Sci-fi tends to be quite culty.
Yeah, that's true.
And I almost wonder whether they were going for that deliberately, whether they were looking for a small but dedicated fan base with that, and failed miserably because everyone in the world started liking Radiohead. Yeah,
that's the problem, is that they became hugely subversive in that trying to no, we're not doing that. Go away. La.
Why are you listening to our album?
They just start more and more and more and more and more. Everybody likes them. They're the coolest band on the planet. Yeah. They're down with the kids. Sorry, they didn't like that at all. It's because they're good.
Yeah, I mean, this adds to that sort of tone, but not much more else. It's an oddity, isn't it? An interesting oddity.
Again, really bleak. I like bleak. That song's a big part of the whole mood of the album, you know.
Track 8, Electioneering.
Loud and heavy at exactly the right moment on the album, and that's okay. big loud guitars. Obviously, as I said, I like the notes, but I don't like the technique or lack of playing of him just hitting the notes. But that's cool. That's okay. It's a good song. It's not the best thing on the album, but it's good, and it just makes everything work perfectly. If you didn't have that there, it would be too melancholy and too, you know, this makes it change a bit as it goes.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't sound like ELO.
No, it doesn't. Not that one.
Track 9.
Climbing Up the Walls. I think a couple of these songs point to where they were going to go next. So it's like they were trying out the different things they were going to do. And I think in a sense they went down one route. They chose one of the things, what they were trying out here. This one sounds like Portishead, I think. It's that kind of thing. Spooky, melancholy, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I love his voice on this actually. It's sort of haunting and...
Good. I think took the video off. The word is good. The album's good. That's
and this is a good song and a good album. Track 10, No Surprises.
No Surprises. Classic pop song. Is this their last pop song? I mean, we thought something else was their last pop song, didn't we? But I think because it's stylistically twee, it's stylised. So I mean, in a way that makes it like a pop song, doesn't it? Sounds like a musical box.
What is this programme where they did that? Was it The Royal Family? I'm sure they sing it on The Royal Family or something like that anyway.
Really? Yeah. I'd sing The Royal Family.
Oh, yeah, it's good. Yeah, the video's quite interesting as well.
Oh, not as good as the video to Paranoid Android. We didn't mention that, did we? It's great.
They are pretty total package, aren't they, Radiohead? They get involved with the artwork and the videos. They're a bit like Stephen Wilson, actually. You can see Stephen Wilson looks at these guys and gone, I know what they're doing. It's a great, catchy song that is probably, although they may not have meant this, but this is probably one of the tracks that are going to suck people in to the black hole. Sort of, it's like the little beacon of light which people go, oh, what's that?
Yeah, so too late, we've got you.
They hear it on VH1 or MTV or whatever. And I'll listen to a bit more of that. And then they're locked crying in their room.
Track 11.
Lucky.
Again, this is typical Radiohead stuff. This is what Radiohead sound like, in that it's depressing and amusingly depressing. It is funny, but also sublimely moving. Another highlight, I think.
I agree.
Track 12.
The Tourist.
The Tourist. This is the aftermath, isn't it? Brilliant. It's exactly the kind of thing you wouldn't have expected them to do at that point. Even when you got to track 11 on their third album, you would never think they would do that. That kind of instrumentally stuff with a nice bit of tasteful guitar and everything. It's brilliant. And it ends a brilliant album. Yeah.
Well, you really get a sense that they're taking control because they really want to get a grip on the craft, or the craft that they're learning, making music. They really do want to be artists.
Yeah.
You get that sense. And the Tourist is a slightly different sound, which, says we can do that as well.
Yeah.
Something else.
Maybe that's why this is probably the best one, in that they're trying everything. It's their only album where they're trying everything. All their other albums are much less diverse in that sense.
It may be also a factor that, if they're producing themselves, that in itself can generate a little bit of enthusiasm. Because they'd had, they weren't particularly not nice people to work with, but they're a little bit moany, you said, on this.
Yeah, angsty, rather than... This
angsty.
Is, if you like, real grown-up emotion.
Yeah.
And then it really, actually depressing. Yeah. Not, I'm a teenager,
It's a sign... I actually think it's a sign of maturity in a band that they can actually sit down and agree when a song's finished, and agree to say, well, actually, this is 14 minutes long, but it's too long.
Yeah, that's
because there's going to be some people, some members who've got some real cherished parts in there, which they're going to have to drop. And only a well-functioning band can do that. So I suspect that actually probably the biggest thing is the way they're working as a unit.
Yeah, it does sound like they just got rid of all the suits, told them all to go away, and went away into the country to record by themselves. I think they had an engineer with them, who I think became kind of a semi-Eddie Offord type part of the band character. Eggs?
I'm tempted,
Yeah, I was, but I'm not going to do it. I'm saying 5, but it's a very, very good 5. It's not like all just 5, it's a 5. I'm not going to say 6.
Is it as good as Abbey Road? I tell you what, it's so different from Abbey Road. You can't even think of those two albums at the same time without getting a little bit of dissonance going on.
You're right, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go 5. It'd be nice to give it a 6. Why can't I do it? Why can't I do it, Kev? Why can't I give it 6?
You should, yeah. It's funny that. Yeah, you're right. Well, Raven That Refused to Sing got 5. Then again, if anything gets 6, you can't say only one album in the world gets 6. So does it have to get 6? Do it! It gets 6 eggs! 6 eggs!
I'm going to give it 6, yeah. I'm thinking, what would my other 6 egg albums be? And I'm thinking Abbey Road, Dark Side of the Moon. We're never going to review those, are we? So there's no secret
there.
The Wall. Yeah, and possibly The Wall. Definitely get into... If I had 5 albums to take with me onto a desert island, that'd be one of them.
probably wouldn't be for me. I'd probably get another 5-6 eggs personally for me. So, you know. But yeah, it's a 6-egg album. If anything gets 6 eggs, it gets 6 eggs, so there it is.
Yeah.
Done. Join us next week. G'day. 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 G'day.
Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already.
Yes, subscribe. Thank you. See you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.